Yo, what is up guys? Just want to let you all know we're going to be opening a new Discord server starting today that'll be much more active. We'll be holding movie nights, viewer games, and way more. Make sure to join with the link below and hope to see you all there. What's up guys, it's Tempest, and I want to make this video since Yone is changing drastically with the upcoming changes in 14.10. For those of you who don't know what the changes are, I'll go over the biggest changes right now. First, the biggest and most impactful change is that they are completely removing lethal tempo from the game. This is obviously such a big change because this has been our main rune for around 3 years now, and swapping to a different rune is going to completely change the way we have to think about playing Yone, which I will go over a little further into the video. The other huge changes are items. For the longest time, our first item has either been Shieldbow or Kraken Slayer. And with this new patch, not only are they getting rid of the lifesteal on Shieldbow, but they are also getting rid of the crit chance on Kraken Slayer, making our itemization quite awkward to say the least. They did change a lot of other items, and by the end of this guide, you guys will learn all the possible different build paths that I've come up with. Now let's talk about the runes. So basically, since they got rid of lethal tempo, we have 3 options, right? We have press the attack, fleet, and conquer. But in my opinion, we only have 2 options. Personally, I do not like the playstyle of fleet on Yone. I don't think it's very good. I think it would be a lot better on Yasuo because a lot of people take fleet for the movement speed, gap closing, which Yone doesn't really need. I wouldn't even think about taking fleet, but I think there are some scenarios, let's say against like a LeBlanc, I think it's valid, but personally I don't think I'm really going to be taking it. I'm going to be going PTA or Conquer. So before I get into the runes in general, I want to talk about PTA because they actually changed it starting next patch. So basically it doesn't amp up your teammates damage anymore, and it just amps up all of your damage, and not on just the one target that it procs on. So it's gonna proc on everyone. So 8% damage to everyone on the enemy team, you know? So it's gonna be a lot more self-sufficient, so it's gonna be way better on Yone, so it's really good. And then Conqueror is still the same. And I'm pretty sure they nerfed the healing on fleets, so that's just another reason to not really take it for sustain. But yeah. So, in my opinion, this one already was on PTA, and I labeled it as good versus short fights. So press the attack is just going to be way better early game for obvious reasons. Every single trade that you go in with Yone in lane, you're going to proc PTA. So if you're getting like 3 autos off, let's say, obviously it's going to do more damage than Conqueror, right? So if you're against like short fights, people who are squishy, and you want more laning power, press the attack is definitely going to be ideal rune. Also, another thing to note, they added a new rune for this trade. They got rid of Overheal. So it's called Absorb Life, which every time you kill a minion or just kill a target, a champion, I think monsters, you just get health. Which, in my opinion, this is just going to be... You're always going to take this on Yone, right? Because his laning phase is really weak, and you're prone to getting poked down. So I think it's just really good to have. Pairing this with Second Wind, you're just going to have so much sustain. So yeah, I think you're always going to want to take Absorb Life. Maybe you can greed if it's a really easy lane, you can just take Triumph, because obviously Triumph is going to be like better in like random fights that you go and getting more gold. So this is the more greedy option. But I think for the most part, especially in high reload games, Absorb Life is just going to be better. They did add another rune in this tree, which is called Legend Haste. Obviously we're just going to ignore this. Does Yone want haste? They didn't change Bloodline. We're just sticking with Alacrity. It's too OP. Attack speed is... Well, actually, we need a attack speed even more since lethal tempo's gone. And the last thing they changed was actually cut down. So this I'm not really sure. I actually haven't even tried it yet. So they changed it. Instead of like, if they have a lot of health, you do more damage. Now if they have... It's basically the polar opposite of coup de grace. So if they're above 60% health, you deal 8% more damage. So this means if they are full HP, as soon as you get them like below 60%, then you don't have a rune anymore in this tree, basically. But yeah, so you automatically do 8% more damage to someone. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'm almost positive, but yeah, I don't know if it's really that good, because obviously coup de grace, no one really takes. I don't think last end is gonna be rare rune. But yeah, again, before I talk about Conquer, that PTA is going to be way better in lane, and also it's probably just better against range lanes, because in range matchups you're only going to be trading in your E, whereas in melee lanes you could actually trade a lot more and maybe like keep the Conquer up, where obviously in range you can't keep it. Yeah, gonna be better against shorter fights, better laning phase, and against ranged. Then we go to our second page, which is the same thing except Conquer. You're gonna take Conquer over PTA if you're you're against Way, take your team. Let's say you're against like a pure tank Galio in mid lane. They have like a Sejuani jungle, stuff like that. Where this is gonna scale way better because it gives you the AD with crit, damage late game. It's gonna be superior in like those really long fights with the Omnivamp. Is that Omnivamp? But anyways, yeah. So against like melee lanes, tanky melee lanes, bruisers, tanks, scaling, Conquer is gonna be superior. And yeah, you're gonna take Flight probably, Alacrity, and then for the resolve, they didn't change anything in the resolve trees. Against melee matchups, both fighting. Against poke, second win, always overgrowth, and yeah, that's about it with the runes. Now that we've got the runes out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about how the playstyle changes, since you know we don't have lethal tempo anymore. The biggest thing I'm going to need you guys to understand is that you cannot take fights and go for early all-ins anymore. In Yone's current state with tempo, you can easily jump on your opponent at level 1 to 3 and go for an all-in if they don't back up. But this is no longer the case. With PTA or Conqueror, Yone is going to be going back to how it used to be, which is all about short trades early on while scaling way harder in the mid to late game. So the key things I need you guys to remember is each trade should be a lot shorter, and especially in range matchups should be about proccing your PTA, getting out to threaten your opponent a bit, allowing you an easier time to CS and scale. This change is going to take a while to get used to, even for me. Sadly, we have to use our brains now and can no longer just right click the enemy level 1 and auto win the fights. So to recap it all, shorter trades early in exchange for way more scaling and carry potential mid to late game. Alright, now on to the items. So basically I've come up with like 3 different build paths. I don't want to say any of these are like official or like this is what are going to be like the most OP, because obviously the patch hasn't come out yet and the only testing I can do is on PvE. And obviously if you guys have not played on the PvE server, it is quite the mess. Basically people just FF at like 5 minutes. You can't even get to one item. At least I can't. So yeah, these are definitely not set in stone, and we will be making a way bigger guide in like probably a month after this patch drops, because they're probably going to change some stuff and all that. So this is just to help you guys right now and to, yeah, what I found to be working, I think, at least in PvE. So yeah, obviously we have our boots. This is what we're going to be rushing every single time. That does not change. So for first back, no matter what build you do, I think it's just really good to rush Azil, because obviously they got rid of Kraken Slayer, so we can't be building like Noon Quiver. Noon Quiver doesn't even build into Kraken Slayer anymore, which I'll get to later on, but yeah, it's very interesting. So we're just back to Zeal, Berserkers into Zeal, very OG type feeling, but yeah, it just gives us attack speed, boost speed, crit chance. It just feels really good because you want a lot of attack speed early now, because no more lethal tempo. So no matter what build you do, I always like going Zeal right after Berserkers. So the number 1 build, which is the most like generic and what people are probably gonna think of first, is just rushing the Zeal into PD, which they did change PD to 60% attack speed, 25% crit, and 12% movement speed. So it's a lot of attack speed, a lot of movement speed, but the problem that I have with it is that it's no AD. So in a lot of lanes with Yone, you're going D-Shield first, right? You're going D-Shield and then Berserkers into PD. So by like, let's say you buy all that by, I don't know, 13, 12 minutes. You don't have a single thing of AD. You are all attack speed, which definitely feels kind of bad in my opinion, especially if you're going PTA in that game, right? So yeah, also I want to say disclaimer, every build that I've done has not felt good. So might be a rough first patch with Yone, but surely they fixed him. But I will say that. But yeah, so first build is just PD, full on rush into IE. Very, very OG build, but they did giga buff IE, as we can see. 80 attack damage now. So the 2 item spike with either Conqueror or PTA does feel pretty good. My only issue with, again, PD rush is that at first item, does not feel strong at all compared to Kraken lethal tempo. But yeah, so as your third item, BT, which they changed BT also, which I haven't gotten into yet. So they got rid of the crit on Bloodthirster. This is why this must look weird. It's like, what, 3 crit items? No, BT is not a crit item anymore. And it's back to old BT. Just gives a shield and a lot of attack damage and a lot of lifesteal, which is good. This is one of the changes that's actually really good for Yasuo Young, because old BT always feels really good. But yeah, another thing that's an issue with this build, as we could see, 3 items in, we have no defensive stats. So this feels a little bad. Maybe honestly it could be Jack Show third and then BT, I'm not exactly sure because, yeah, rushing these 3 items might be a bit too squishy. I don't know if the BT shield is enough. But yeah, so boots, these 4 items gives you all that you need. 100% crit, lifesteal, and tankiness. And for your 5th item, it could just be whatever you need, which we'll get to the situational items at the end after we go over the builds. Something I forgot to add is that they actually changed Flicker Blade. So basically this is old Navori, where it has like the old Navori passive, but they changed it into 40% attack speed, no AD movement speed. So it's like the same stats as PD, but you get 20% less attack speed and less movement speed, but you get the passive of Current Navori, which is like every auto Q lowers the cooldown of your abilities. So this is like actually really good on Yone because it's lowering the W and the E. So yeah, I'm not gonna say it's objectively better than PD because obviously PD you get 20% more attack speed and more movement speed, but in my opinion, I actually do think in this build Navori would be better on Yone, and then for PD it would be Yasuo. So keep that in mind, experiment with both of them, but in my opinion, Navori is better. Okay, so build number 2 is something that I've been trying in PB. So this gets rid of the issue of PD, of your first item not having any attack damage, right? So it does cost a little more, obviously, because you have to go Berserker's Zeal, and Zeal doesn't turn into Kraken. As we see, Kraken's build path is a bit wonky, for sure. Hawkborn Axe, Recur Bow, and Rectrix. I've never built this item in my life, I'm gonna be honest. So, yeah, basically it would be Berserkers into Zeal, into Hearthbound, into finishing Kraken. So this feels the best when you're just having those backs, right? It's like, oh, you back for Berserkers, next back you get Zeal, next back you build this. And then you have 1.3 on your attack speed on Q, and it feels really good. So I will say, this will make you spike a little later, because getting the 2 items is gonna take a bit, because you have to go Zeal first. But at 2 items, it does feel really, really good. Getting the movement speed from Zeal and Kraken, you're gonna be so fast. But yeah, it's gonna be Zeal, or Berserker, Zeal, Kraken, i.e. Bloodthirster, Jak'Sho. And then for your last item, you could either finish the Zeal into PD, or, which is probably better, just sell the Zeal late game and build a situational item. So yeah, this is a build that I want you guys to try and let me know how it feels. I feel like it's not gonna stick, but I think this is the main build I'm gonna do, because I really don't like PD Rush. But yeah, definitely try these 2 builds. These are the 2 like strongest builds that I have found. And yeah, this gets rid of the issue of like just full-on rushing an item that doesn't give you attack damage. And then for the 3rd build, obviously old reliable Bork, which they did also change Bork. It went from 12% current health damage, which I don't think it shows it here. No, it doesn't, but it's down to 8%. So that's a pretty big nerf, but they gave it more AD and more attack speed. So I don't know if it's a flat out... I feel like it's a buff early game, and then a nerf later on once people have like a lot of HP. And they also did nerf it one other way, which it does not apply on first auto anymore. It's back to 3 autos, and it doesn't deal damage, which is the slow after 3 auto attacks. So yeah, it's gonna be Berserkers into Zeal into Bork, or you could just skip the Zeal. I'm just putting this here because Zeal on first back feels pretty good, or after Berserkers. But yeah, you don't have to feel inclined to go Zeal into Bork. You could just go on full on Bork. But what I liked was full on Bork, and then if you have the Zeal already, you finish the Zeal into PD. If not, you just build PD into Bloodthirster, into IE, into Jak'Sho. Just all of these 6 items. Which, I don't think you have to build it exactly in this order. If you want like more damage, you can go with the IE. If you want more tankiness, you can go with the Jak'Sho 3rd. If you want the lifesteal. Yeah, so feel free to experiment with that. But yeah, these are the 3 builds that I came up with. And then as we see, these 2 builds, you can build 1 additional item. And we go to the situational items, which I would say just one of these. Terminus is always good if you just want that more tankiness. You need that pen. It's a really tanky team comp. QSS, which a good change on this is that they added the lifesteal back into it. So if you ever need QSS, you build it into this, get some lifesteal, feels good. Wit's End if you need that tenacity with some MR. They have a high AP comp and you need tenacity. Wit's End's good. Iceborne is basically just like a substitute for Jak'Sho if they're all AD, because obviously you don't really want the MR from Jak'Sho if they're all AD, so you'd rather go a cheaper item with Iceborne. If you don't want Iceborne, Death's Dance is also an option, because they did buff it last patch, I'm pretty sure, or this current patch. Which, yeah, it's always a solid item against high AD bursts like Zed. Rek'Sai, stuff like that. So, always a solid armor item. Randuin's they changed. I don't think we would really build this item anymore because they actually got rid of the part where... Oh no, so does the crit chance thing. Yeah, never mind. So you would still build it if they have, like, let's say, an 80 carry plus Kindred plus Tryndamere for the anti-crit. Always solid. And then, lastly, Force of Nature. Visage should probably be here too. Gonna add that real fast. Let's say you have, like, Ocean Soul plus Soraka and Visage. If they don't, and you want another pure MR item, just with the moon speed, Force of Nature. And then last but not least, they added a new thing called Zephyr. So, this is a boots upgrade, right? So you're only gonna build this after you build all of your items, because for some reason it costs 2,000 gold. 2,000 gold to upgrade your boots from 35% attack speed to 45, so you're only getting 10% attack speed. Same movement speed, and you get a passive called Like the Wind to gain 5% movement speed on hit for 6 seconds, stacking up to 15% movement speed. So it just gives you more movement speed. That's it. For 2,000 gold. And a little bit more attack speed. So, I mean, it's nice, for sure, to have. It's going to be way more useful on Yasuo, because Yasuo cares way more about movement speed than Yone. But, yeah. Obviously, it's just a nice thing, but do not build this until you have your whole build. Because 2,000 golds, that's a whole item. So, get your whole build, and then if it's like a 50-minute game, 40-minute game, feel free to buy the Zephyr. Yeah, those are all the builds. Let me know how you guys feel with these builds after you try it out. And yeah, again, nothing is set in stone, and we will have a bigger guide later on in the month.